So now I am recording. All right, here we go. So a couple things we're going to be looking at. The first thing that I sent y'all this afternoon, again, is just a reminder, was the economically disadvantaged 2 indicator spreadsheet. So this process has been simplified in comparison to last year. They added the EcoDis 2 indicator into the Mass Add special program. So it actually makes it a very quick process for adding your students by grade level. And so just kind of running through that real quick. This is your step sheet. There is also an instructional video that you can watch this process. So I'll try to keep those available for you each time. You can see here that we're going to enter our students based on the first day of instruction if they qualify. But what you have to remember is when we're going through the Mass Add special program, if you select the first day of instruction 9/8/2020 and that student was not enrolled on that first day of instruction, they were no-showed, or they're just a new student to the district that came later than that, this initial Mass Add will not pick up those students. You'll have to go back and find those students with later enrollment dates. And I will pull a report for you guys on campus that will show you the students that do not have the EcoDis 2 indicator coded to allow you to go through quickly and efficiently and catch up on the kids that have not been marked prior to our snapshot. And so I will continue to give you updates on that information. And then, of course, we're going to be doing the EcoDis 2 indicator. Remember, do not go into the EcoDis 1 indicator. EcoDis 1 is just for our state-coded. Those are the kids that come from the database from the state, and they're automatically loaded into the system on a monthly basis. So a lot of your kids are going to go in and see that in EcoDis 1, they already have an indicator, and the indicator date is 9/7/2020. And again, that's just because they were in the state file and loaded into the system automatically. So always EcoDis 2. And then for coding, we're coding the 99s, which is based on our local income survey. And so there's the step sheets and what it looks like in the system. Again, the Mass Add special program is the new feature this year, which is much quicker. Y'all are used to using this on at-risk and all the other coding. I always go to the search menu and type in Mass Add and find the Mass Add special program. Once in there, you just select your campus. Let's see, I think I have Bells Hill as an example. You can do this by grade level. And remember, elementaries, you will have to select all your calendars, so you'll have to go through your pre-K as well. Secondaries, you typically just have the traditional calendar. Brazos, you'll want to make sure that you do both your full day and your half day calendar for coding those students. So here, just under traditional, I'm going to go through first grade as an example. I'm going to put this start date again as 9/8, the first day of instruction. Under the special program field, EcoDis 2, and again, make sure you select 2, not 1. And then the value is 99. And then once you do a search, it pulls up the full list of students. And you can see here, some of these have already actually been coded. So what you see is the available list of students, and then you see the students that have already been coded with an EcoDis indicator 2. And so let me see a different grade level, see if we have some. Okay, so I think several of these have already been coded. Find a campus that has not. So here's an example of a campus that without students coded with the EcoDis indicator. So you can see it's an alphabetical listing by the grade level of all the students. This is at GW Carver. So see, it's 137 records. For the high schools, you'll be going through this 300 records at a time. So you may have to go through a grade level 2 to 3 times with this process. But each time you go through it, it's going to pull those 300 kids out that you are able to select, or the ones you're able to select and place them into the excluded students. If we have additional issues with that, just contact me directly and I'll help us get that taken care of. And so what you're going to do is then use your EcoDis2 calculator spreadsheet that was provided. This is an example. This is over at Bells Hill. And so remember, there's two tabs we talked about: the manual calculator. So any students where you receive the information either paper-based or on campus at a later time, not in the online registration, you can enter their information here, which is their SNAP TANF selection, then also the household number or household members, and then the income level that they chose. Once you enter that information, it's going to tell you or indicate whether or not they are a 0 or did not qualify, or a 99 as a qualified based on local income survey. As you complete these, if you go to your campus page, it's going to update. So you can see here that all the students are coded. If you go down your list and you see any students that do not have an EcoDis2 indicator, it means you need to go find paperwork for them, go find the local income survey, and get that information entered into the manual calculator. Now, this information is students that were enrolled when this spreadsheet was generated. So there may be, again, a few students that were late enrollments that we'll have to catch up on. But as soon as we have the initial entry done, I will send you the specific list of those students that are not coded. And then again, when you're reading this, you can see Bells Hill looks like they have 100% of their students entered into the spreadsheet and ready to code, with an overall EcoDis indicator rating of 95.72 for the campus. And so all that information has been shared, and this is just kind of tracking. So as a district right now, about 95% of the forms have been entered into the spreadsheet and are ready for coding in Frontline. So that is awesome. As a district, we're sitting right at about 85.88%. This will adjust slightly with our enrollment numbers based on Snapshot, which is just slightly lower than where we were last year. I'll send y'all this view so you can kind of track where you are in comparison to last year. And then you can also look back to 2018 as well and do a comparison of them. Some campuses had errors in 2019 submission, so you may not look at that number as closely. But again, looking back, for example, here at University, they are behind where they were last year. But in 2018, they were coded at 81.79% EcoDis. So they're within range of where they should be. And of course, we're going to make sure we verify all of the students that are showing that they do not qualify to identify every student possible in that category for EcoDis2. We're going to shoot for a submission date on this of, I believe, October 15th. You can begin entering this now. If you're ready to begin entering into the system, you want to get a jump on tracking down any stragglers, you can go ahead and begin the entry process. And once you have them entered into the system, just let me know. So again, on the mass add, all you're doing is selecting those students that would qualify. If you're at 99% EcoDis for the grade level, you can do an add all. Apologize. So you can do, if you have, again, the majority of your students are going to be coded as EcoDis, you could do an add all and then select the students from the selected list that did not qualify and remove them. So there's a couple different ways to do it. You can individually select, what we called cherry picking in the past, and run through and select all your students that qualify, or you can do the add all and pick those that do not qualify, remove them from the list. And once you have your correct students selected, you'll hit submit, and then they'll all receive the coding for their EcoDis2 indicator. So we will also code those that don't qualify at the end with the 0, but right now we really want to focus on getting those coded that do qualify and ensuring that we find the information on any of the students that we do not have their current income survey for. So looking, I'll stop and look at the chat for a second. Yes, so Ms. Bell again wants to highlight, and you guys know, I think Mary Wall was doing this on the second day of school. She was already on it over at CCMS to get this information in. So you know the importance for accountability, and y'all did a great job last year. Y'all are doing a great job right now. And so we just want to make sure we get this accurate and get every child accounted for that does qualify based on the documentation. All right, so as you get going on the EcoDis, again, if you have any questions, please contact us. It should be a pretty quick process, adding those in by grade level. But again, we want to make it as efficient as possible. All right. Oh, and I'll go back in and get Wiley Opp on there. I apologize. I sometimes forget my alternative campuses. We'll get Wiley Opp on the sheet to get updated. Okay. So EcoDis, again, October 15th deadline. But if you want to start entering those this week, I think that would be awesome. And then as soon as you have it, you feel like you have all of them coded, let me know and I can pull you a report and we'll see if there's any of those late enrollments that were missed, so we can make sure you get that information as accurate as possible. Next piece that I just sent. Frontline has released their update that is going to give us a more streamlined method for tracking our students that are remote learners. And so there's a couple things that are going to take place over the course of the next week as we get closer to the second 6 weeks, of course. So on 10/13, you have several students that are changing their instructional setting. And also we need to make sure we get an accurate depiction of our students that are remote learners for our second submission of crisis codes. Last week in our department, we coded all 14,300 students that were here on the 28th, or give or take 100, with the crisis code for remote or in-person instruction, and submitted that to the state yesterday. We're going to do that coding again for November 5th, due date of November 5th. And that's again so the state can just track the student population and how they're moving from remote to in-person instruction. I'm not going to ask you on the campus to do that because you'll have enough on your plate. But what I will ask you to do is this new piece for student remote instruction indicator. Now remember, before we were working with the district program and doing in-person and face-to-face, or in-person and remote instruction. We're actually going to do away with that district program code, and I can mass remove that. I'm going to wait until we get this student remote instruction indicator coded, and then I'll remove those district program codes just to clean up the system a little bit. And we won't have to worry about district program for remote and in-person instruction after this. So the student remote instruction indicator is another mass add special program. And what you'll see here is this has a spreadsheet attached to it. It's called the COVID Crisis Coding COVID-19. And this shows you, you can see across the bottom, every campus is listed. And so everybody has a spreadsheet, and it shows you alphabetically all of your students. And no, it's not out. Well, I'll get it reorganized, but it shows all your students by grade level, and whether or not they were marked as in-person or remote asynchronous based on the first set of crisis codes submitted to the state. Now, several of the students, as we were going through this process, I pulled the attendance files to look for any of the students that were coded with RAL. And so I found several students that were originally marked as in-person instruction, but they had been marked RAL for more than 7 days of the year. I went ahead and changed them to remote asynchronous for this submission because they spent more time in the remote environment. And then you had, conversely, you also had some of those that were marked as remote, but had never been marked with the RAL attendance code were always marked present or absent. And so those were changed to in person. So this is the list that what I really need you guys to do is go in and verify your remote asynchronous learners. So your remote students that are going to be starting October 13th. So we need to make sure to identify the entire list of students that will be remote learners on October the 13th and ensure that this list is as accurate as possible. Because once you have that information, what we're going to do is another mass add special program. Again, going by grade level. We're going to do a date of 10/9/2020, and that's on the instruction sheet. Basically, this is just the Friday before the second 6 week. The indicator is called the Student Remote Instruction Indicator, and the value that you can select is yes. And again, same process. You're just going to go through and select all those students that are remote learners by grade level. Once you have your students selected, you click Add, and then you'll click Submit. Now, what's really cool about this and what you get to share with your teachers is this really cool feature that is added with this. And what the teachers will now be able to see when they're taking attendance is they will actually get an indicator on their attendance sheet that shows that the student is a remote asynchronous learner. So what they've been asking for is somehow to quickly identify which students should be remote, which ones should be in person. Our remote instruction indicator is what will create this icon for those students that are in the remote environment. So it's a house with a computer, that's remote instruction. So you can see here a quick glance and you know who's remote, and those would be marked with the RAL. And again, we just need to make sure our list is accurate. And you can go by cohort as well at the high school level. And Lisa, what we'll have to work through there, of course, is because the numbers will be so large, you may have to do it through several sections or several times, add and submit, and then come back and start again where you left off, just based on the fact that you can only see 300 records at a time. I'm still going to work to figure out a way around that, but for now, you just may have to go into the mass add a few times, but you can do it by cohort. And so then your teachers will have access to viewing the remote learners, and the only place you'll have to keep track, or the only thing you'll have to keep track of on campus is your remote students. So if a student moves into remote learning, there is an entry point called Maintain Student Remote Instruction or Student Remote Instruction Search. And you can go in and view. This is where you would make changes. If a student moves from remote to in-person instruction, you can simply go in and delete or end the indicator. And then if they're added to remote instruction, you just go in and add them with the indicator of yes on the effective date. So you can mass add initially, and then for making your updates to the student remote instruction, you'll go to the student remote instruction search and look for your students individually. Again, that sheet I just sent out, I gave most of this information, and then I'll update with a video as soon as I have time as well. Any questions on the remote instruction indicator? Okay, so this one is going to be important for moving forward. Again, based off of this, when this coding is accurate, we'll go in and code for the second crisis coding that has to be provided to the state on November 5th. And so we want this to be as accurate as possible so we can identify those remote students. And then, of course, all other students would be assumed to be in person that aren't marked. So this is another piece that would be great to have in as close to possible to the start of the second 6 week. And 10/13 is the start date for the next 6 weeks, but we're just going to go ahead and enter that in there on 10/9 just to give me a little wiggle room to ensure that that we know that those are coded. You don't have to finish coding them by 10/9, but the sooner you can get the remote instruction indicator coded, the better it will be. Keep sending questions, that's good. So the remote to in-person, hopefully, I believe I shared a spreadsheet. Okay, so hopefully most of y'all have seen this sheet. Everybody should be shared on this one, Ms. Sanchez. This is that remote instructional choice resubmission. So this is where the parents can go onto the website, and it's a Google form that they completed. This Google form will be opened back up for the third 6 week on the 13th. So the parents right now are locked out of the form and unable to submit. But on this, you have a campus spreadsheet. And on that campus spreadsheet, you will be able to see the students and what their current setting was, what they're requesting, and if that needs to be changed in the system. So you'll want to go in and view that information, verify it. Again, this is based off what's in the system. You guys know your students. You know the movement. You know the day-to-day activity. So always go back and verify what's in there and ensure you get them coded as accurately as possible. So this same spreadsheet will open back up on the 13th and you'll have access. And then what we'll do is we'll update this to be for the third 6 week, and you'll be able to go in and see parents that are making instructional choice change requests for the third 6 week. So good question. Okay. So we've covered EcoDis. We've covered remote instruction coding. This week is a big week with progress reports, with report cards. Now, with the progress reports, several of y'all went through the process of emailing those out, which was a bit time consuming. That process is designed really for the teachers to complete. And I'm talking to the principals that did that. It'll be a goal to get it to where the teachers, when they post their progress reports, go ahead and send out at least to the students that are failing, so that the parents can get individual emails from those teachers where their students are failing in the class. For the teacher to do that process, instead of you guys doing it for the whole campus, takes literally 10 seconds. And so we would just compile a uniform email for the campus that could be copy and pasted into the email message. And I'll make a step sheet and video for the teachers to be able to do that. I'll look into that, Ms. Swaza, on how we can deal with Wiley Opportunity, since they originally posted it to their home campus. Let me see if there's a way I can build you a sheet that you could enter the student IDs that are currently on campus, and it would pull the information from the submissions. And that way you could just keep it updated by changing your student list versus what the other campuses are doing. All right. So on the report cards, again, we won't have the option to email them. So that's not built into the system to send out a mass email the same way it is for the progress report. A couple campuses, there's been several different ideas floated around. If you're comfortable mailing and your campus has set aside budget, mailing is always an option. You can always hand out your face-to-face, mail out your remote, and again, that's why it's going to be important for that remote instruction indicator to be accurate, so we can help keep those lists accurate for you guys. But you can also, some campuses have talked about really pushing their parents towards the parent self-serve portal. And so that could look something like a mass call out from your campus, letting parents know that the report cards are available in parent self-serve portal. Also probably letting the parents know that if they wanted a paper copy, they could request with campus. But you could send out one mass message or one mass email that gave parents instructions on how to access those report cards within the parent self-serve portal. And then ultimately our end goal is to have the parents begin setting up their notifications to where the system will automatically notify them that there is a progress report or report card pending review. And so that would be something that would automate the process. Of course, the parents can also get information like notifications for missing assignments or notifications for attendance. And so they can get a lot of good information from the parent self-serve portal. It's just a matter of more training with the parents, and I'll provide more resources on the website to try to help them access. So I would talk to your campus principal and see what the leadership team is thinking for report cards, how they would like to distribute, and that way you know that process before this Friday and kind of feel comfortable going into the weekend about what has to take place. Anything else on report cards? Dina, Sari, Judy, Rita, anything y'all can think of that we need to make sure we cover for the first set of report cards? One of the pieces, of course, that would be good to mention is the attendance. Since report card attendance will pull those absences, if the remote asynchronous learning hasn't been updated all the way through the time report cards are pulled, you probably received several calls already from parents, from parents regarding absences showing up for their students. The parents will tell you that they have been there watching them on the computer work on the assignments and making progress. But again, basically it just means that the attendance hadn't been updated in the teacher system. So of course it initially looks to the parent like the student was absent. And so any kind of notes from the leadership on the remote attendance and then the lag time there. All right, Rita did bring up grades for specials. This is for the elementary campuses, and so in particular for the remote students. We're going to work on that process. I've been talking with Rita today on how we want to handle that. If they, again, have not really from the remote setting been participating in those specials programs, if we want to build a different grade value that would indicate that they were remote instruction instead of using the no grade. If we use no grade, it impacts on the calculations, and it also doesn't give us any way to identify those students moving forward that received that marking based on being remote instruction. So elementaries, we will get you the rest of that information over the next couple of days, hopefully by tomorrow, so y'all can be prepared on telling and helping the teachers with what they need to do for the elementary specials for those remote kiddos. Yes, teacher verification sheets and grade verification sheets should still take place and get those completed by the teachers on this first go round. We'll look forward to the second round and see if we're comfortable going just all electronic and taking what is submitted within the grade book to verify all those pieces. Teachers will still have the ability to do grade change requests, and so we'll also send out some information on that to make sure that those are done in a timely fashion, and teachers shouldn't have to go back multiple grading periods to adjust grades at semester. They should stay on the current period and make grade change requests within the week. Yes. So if you have teachers that are off campus, that are remote, that are quarantined, whatever the case may be, you can send those to them and they can send you an email confirmation that everything's good, or email confirmation with the changes, and you can print that email as your documentation. If they happen to have a scanner, if they want to take a picture and send it to you, that works as well. We just have to be as flexible as possible because I know each campus is facing different situations within that. All right. Those are really the big pieces. The other big piece, of course, is going to be at risk. I know that Dr. Wilson has been working with your at-risk coordinators on campus to begin that process of identifying, and then, of course, ultimately falling on you, the data entry for those students. And so a couple things I can do, and we'll begin looking at, is there are some mass add at-risk indicators that you can run that are, since they're system-based. Things like your DAEP placements based on specific offense codes, or JJAEP settings, or homeless or LEP status. A lot of those can be automatically updated by the system, so you don't have to go back into those kids and do that individually. And so I will begin looking at those mass updates and adding those to the campuses, and that way that will help with the identification on at risk based on the elements that are already in the frontline SIS. But yeah, with that, everything is coming quick. Everything's moving very fast this year. And so I know you guys, again, have been the ones hit with all the questions on campus. We're working through some attendance pieces still. And so we're building out some resources to try to help the campuses go back and clean up the attendance. Now, again, attendance is not submitted until the summer for PEIMS submission, but we want to keep that as accurate and update as possible. And like I said, particularly for the remote or the report card absences, because it will show on those students' report cards, and there'll be then concerns about whether or not they'll receive credit or not. So we want to make sure we keep those as accurate as possible. But again, some of the resources that we started putting together for the secondary and elementary campuses will help to go back and give a quick verification. So hopefully over the next couple of days, I just started building out, but I can pull up one example, I believe. So here's kind of an example of what we're looking at to assist the secondary campuses, and it will be very similar for the elementary. But what we have here is, this is from Canvas, and it's pulling the information by teacher, by their specific courses. And as you've been in the screen, you realize that this looks a lot like what's in the teacher's multiple day attendance screen. And you can go in and they can just verify if the student received credit for RAL or not. And we can go back and do a verification to our attendance. So I'll get all of you guys resources like this over the next week, so we can go back and clean up any attendance issues in the first marking period. And again, we want to stay on top of that as best as possible, because it becomes a pretty overwhelming task if you get too far behind. I have meetings, I think, with Crestview on Friday. I meet with Cesar Chavez today. If any of your principals or any of your teachers are still needing assistance, if they would like me to hop in on a Zoom meeting with the campus or with specific teachers, please let me know. The teachers are feeling overwhelmed as well, so if we can give them the resources they need to be more accurate and efficient, then it's going to help you in the long run, and I'm happy to do that. So if you have any situations like that, let me know, and I'll be happy to hop on and help coach and support those teachers in the classroom to the best of my ability. But with that, are there any other questions before I take a moment to welcome our newest member? Is Marcella on here, Ms. Jimenez for West Avenue? Yes, she is. So West Avenue, just recent hire, Miss Marcela Jimenez, and we want to make sure to welcome her to the team, welcome her to the, I don't want to say the chaos, but I guess the roller coaster, as you would call it this year. And so elementaries, if you want to reach out for support, we're all here for you. We all do this together. So Maricela, welcome to the team. We're excited to have you. Mr. Weeks is extremely excited to have you. And if you need anything from us, just let us know. All right, with that, if you have any questions that come up after this meeting, please let me know. As soon as this recording is posted, I'll send this out to the group and you can go back and review any of the processes. Again, focus on one, the EcoDIS2 indicators, getting that information, and we can start loading. That remote student indicator is going to be very important, but I know you got report cards, so make sure you have your processes in line for the report cards first, and then as you have your spare time, you can definitely take that time to begin some of these codings. And again, if you need anything, need any additional information, please let me know. I'm happy to try to find ways to pull and support your campus, your teachers, your leadership, so that you can continue to focus on your job and not so many of the questions. Thank you again. Y'all have a great rest of your afternoon.